I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show. Once again, another episode where I talk so much before the interview. We'll have to put some of it, put some extra links, but I have an amazing guest who I've been like, my cheeks are already hurting, smiling so much talking. So I cannot wait for this interview. Braith, thank you so much for joining me.
Tanya, it's been a pleasure. We've just already laughed a lot, and I love to laugh. And who doesn't love to laugh? I think we're going to have a good show today.
So tell the audience who's listening to you a little bit about your history. Who are you? What's your story?
Well, how far back would you like to go?
however great the stories are, go that far.
Oh, the stories are great. Can we go back to the 80s? Do you want to go back to the 80s?
Yes, I do.
The 80s are good. So I started my first real grown-up job in the late 80s, and in the late, for your audience, I probably can't tell, but I'm Australian, just letting that out there. But and I was living in Sydney at the time. I grew up in Sydney, and it was a very exciting period for Australia because we had started to mature as a country, and we were coming up to a bicentennial in 1988, and there was a lot of construction going on, a lot of building, massive projects, and so there was a really exciting to be in Sydney. And I'd started my first job selling commercial textiles, so to architects and interior designers, and it was great, a lot of fun. And my very first boss said to me, we were driving across the Harbour Bridge, and I was sitting in her car, and she said, if you want to succeed in this business, Braith, you need to learn how to network and build business through referral. And I didn't say anything. I'm like 20, whatever. And we did our day.
Yeah, you knew better.
I knew that. What's she on about? But as we were coming back over the Harbour Bridge, and, it's very iconic, the Harbour Bridge. And, I was looking up at those girders, and it sparked my memory. And I said, Judith, what did you mean by networking and referrals? And she said, I'm really glad you asked, because if you hadn't asked, I wouldn't share it with you. But I'm going to share with you how I built my business. And over the next few years, she mentored me in how to build a network and generate business through referral. But the cornerstone of that, and the thing that has stuck with me throughout my entire career and everything I've done, is if you want to be successful in whatever you do, you genuinely really have to want to help other people be successful at what they do. And the law of reciprocity, which we all understand that now, will help you. And, as a 20-something-year-old, I was pretty malleable, and I learned from her, and I really learned what that meant at a granular level, because you can say those words, but not act out. It's very easy to say, I believe in that, but not act out. I see a lot of people say it, but not do it. It's kind of fascinating. So I left that after a few years, and I was in telco. I did an MBA, went and did in the telco industry, and I was working at Nokia in the 90s when it was really cool. Before Apple was even.
I remember those phones.
Those 3 Series phones, the little 3 Series phones, small ones. You can throw them against the wall; they're not breaking. Not like phones. I know, but do you remember there was a game called Snake on that?
Yes.
This will crack you
Stupid
up.
Walls.
We had an entire afternoon training session on how to play Snake. And then what they wanted us to do was to go out into local cafes with the noise on full and play Snake, so people would come over and watch it, so people would get interested in Nokia phones and Snake, because we thought it was so groundbreaking and so on the edge of technology. But, you know, it was a fun time. And, you know, again, I really understood in that business that to get ahead, you needed to help other people. And, you know, I loved that. And, you know, one thing led to another. And, you know, we'll move forward to, you know, 15 years ago, I ended up in Melbourne. I had a mattress business and I sold that and ended up becoming the owner of BNI in Melbourne Central. I don't know if your members have heard of the BNI. It's a professional networking group, the world's largest professional networking group. Loved it. I mean, I've been networking all my life, and here is this framework that somebody built. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I learned in the 80s, but you've put a really cool framework around it. So I just loved it. And now I still have that business, but now what I deliver is keynote presentations, and I run training programs for people on, you know, how to take their business to the next level. And really the foundation of it is you gotta want to help other people before you help yourself. And then you've got to be really clear about what it is you want, because if you want people to help you, they've got to know how to do it, right?
Well, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, right? I love this message because my whole shtick in life, if you want to call it that, is
Yeah.
teaching people how to collaborate and what the truth of that is. Not just
Yeah.
going, no. I'm like, what can you give me? And then
Yeah.
whatever you give me, you'll get some benefit to it too, right? The real,
Yeah.
like you said, giving more than what you get back, knowing that reciprocity is going to happen. But I think people kind of get stuck because they really do want to do this. Like you said, a lot of people, you know, you hear people saying this, but where do you think it is that they get stuck or sort of lost in translation?
So there's a couple of layers to that. One of the things that I have noticed a lot is that many people operate from scarcity, and scarcity is a place that really occupies a lot of energy. And if you're coming from scarcity, you've got to put a lot of effort into that. Like I learned in my teens that being a depressed teenager was more work than being a happy teenager, because, you know, negative stuff takes energy, right?
Yeah.
So I've known all my adult life that if you're in a negative space, it's hard work. And I'm just lazy. I'm not putting the effort into being miserable. I'm just not willing to do it because it's too much hard work.
I'm not depressed because I can't be. It's just, I just don't have, I'm too lazy to
too much work. I can't do but it's true, right? It is absolutely true. You know, the affect that you need to have around that, and I'm not diminishing mental health here, because, you know, I've had my periods and, you know, but it takes a lot of work to have that. And so the lightness is less work and it's available to all of us. So that's one part of it, scarcity and the effort that comes around. But secondly is not knowing what you want and why, and not being able to clearly articulate it to other people and extract that from them, because that's the real skill. If you know what you want, you're absolutely crystal clear, but you're with somebody and you can tell that they don't know, you can help guide them to a clear place that they can come from, so you can help them. And one of my favorite questions is when people say to me, oh, I'm giving a lot to this person, but they're not giving me anything. And I say, no worries, here's what you say. I'd say, Tanya, we've spent a lot of time learning about your business, and, you know, I'm really excited. I'm going to be able to help you, but I have to take responsibility because I have not made it easy for you to help me, and I take responsibility for that. So what I want to do for you now is tell you how you can easily help find me something, and this is how it's going to look. And then you explain to them what your target market is, the opportunities, the potential connections, the language of connection, all the things that you need to teach people how to do, because you've got to take responsibility for it. Because, you know, it might be their lack of skill set, but, you know, if you want to work with someone, you got to teach them, right? You've absolutely got to teach them what you want, and then they will learn.
I love this because it's so true. And what happens a lot is that people will go, I've given a lot to this person, I've got nothing in return, so I'm writing them off.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can change your mindset and go, maybe I didn't give them enough information to make it easy or to even know what it is that I want. And it's
Yeah.
shocking to me, like, well, this is going to wreck the end of our interview, but at the end of every single interview, when I go off air, one of the questions that for like always ask in every single interview is, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
What do you need right now? How can I help you more? And
Yeah.
I'm shocked by how many times people are like, oh, um,
Right.
wow, thank you. Like, and I'm like, it's weird that this is a weird question because I
And
was
that's
sort of
right.
raised in that, right? Like always like, how can I help you? What can I do?
Yeah.
But I realized that there's so many times that people are in that mindset of not knowing how to answer that question. And most people say it's a really easy question to answer. I'll tell you that because most people are like, I don't know, just the interview is great. Like, so really, like, let's be honest, I'm getting away kind of easy with it. But there are those few people who are like, yes. Oh, thank you so much. I could use this, this, and this. And it's like you were saying, when they have that clarity, it's super easy for me because I'm like, oh, another interview, not a problem. Let me introduce you to this person. But they have clarity.
Yeah. And when you're hanging out with people who are operating at that level and all of you collectively have that vibe going on, you lift each other up. But people who don't have that skill set can see, oh, Tanya knows that question. Oh, maybe I need to ask that question of other people. But you've got to be genuinely open and willing to respond with that, right? So you've
Mhm.
genuinely got to be able to, you don't have to do something. Maybe it's not in your capacity to do something, but if you don't ask, you got no choice of finding out whether somebody can help you. But like, if you asked me if I could introduce you to Richard Branson, I'm going like, I doubt that I could, but you asked that of 100 people, I bet somebody would kind of go, well, maybe not, but I know someone who knows him, type of thing. Like, you'll get there eventually, but if you don't ask, you don't get. And that's clarity is really important. And when you show other people how you operate, they will copy you and start to learn how to do it for themselves. But I want to go back to a question you asked or a statement that you made, and I loved it. You talked about writing people off
Mhm.
when they're not giving you. And it's such an easy thing to do because people will say, well, I've given her so much, she's given me nothing. And like, there's not a checklist going on here, people.
Yeah.
There is not a checklist. So it is totally fine to have a relationship where you give all the give and they have all the take, because the law of reciprocity is somewhere in the universe that's coming back to you. And maybe in this relationship, you're just the person that helps that person. But I want your listeners to think about, oh, and by the way, if you've built time with a relationships you shouldn't chuck away very quickly, because it takes time and energy to build a relationship. You want to really cherish relationships because human beings are hardwired to connect. And if we build relationships with people, there's always some value you're getting from that relationship, unless it's toxic. And then you can go, yeah, I'm done with you. You can move on. But, the givers gain thing is you might get from somebody else and you might be the recipient of somebody giving you. And what you might be giving to that person who you feel is a taker is you might be teaching them that it's really important to be in a relationship where people care about you, and they may never understand how to build that type of relationship for themselves. So you're teaching them. But I think about this. Oh, people often ask me, oh, I've tried this all the time. But when you help other people in a volunteer situation, if you've ever done any volunteering, volunteering is pretty much a one-way thing. You give your time, your energy, or whatever to a cause, but you always seem to get something back, right? You get energy, you get joy, you get a sense of connection, a sense of community. Sometimes relationships are like that. They're just giving for the sake of giving, and that's totally okay,
Well,
unless it's
and
toxic.
true. But I think this is like, I used to always get in trouble because I used to be the president of the chamber. And I used to always say to people, listen, nobody volunteers just purely out of the goodness of their heart. There's always something that you're getting back for it. Whether, like
Yes.
you said, whether it's, the happy feeling, whether it's that you got to help somebody, whether it's that you get your face in the paper, or like there's just always something there, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is okay to help going, I'm doing this, I'll get my name in the paper. Maybe that's a reason why you spend an extra 2 hours, doling stuff out at a soup kitchen or whatever the case may be. But I think there's such that negative, oh, I have to be giving this 100% just out of the goodness of my heart. And I'm like, well, do you though?
I know, right? Well, here's the thing. Like, when you are a human being, you come with a whole lot of things that you can't escape. And one of them is ego. We have an ego, whether we like it or not. And, you can meditate under a Bodhi tree till the cows come home, but you are human. You are going to have an ego, and that is okay. But how you show up in the world and have your ego met is what makes a difference. And if you're having your ego's need for significance met in a way that's positive, like helping in the soup kitchen or helping at the chamber, that's a really helpful way to have your need for significance met. I love B&I because it gives me an ability to be significant in a community. I love my training programs because I get to stand in front of the room and people see me as an authority. That is a really healthy way for me to feel good about myself. I think so.
Well, and I think, this is like a fresh way for people to also look at stuff, because a lot of times, like even when I have like my year-long group membership, I always laugh because they're like, you give so much and so much of your time and you're always there for me. And I always laugh and I go, I just always think it's so funny how all of my groups always tell me like how much they got out of it. And meanwhile, I'm the one who's walking away with so much richness, like so much richness, because I've learned so many lessons. I see different perspectives. Like I'm just getting so much out of the experience as well. But that only came when I started to realize I can get stuff out of this too. I don't always just have to, I'm the teacher and the student at the same time. I teach, but I watch and I learn. And so I'm like, this is like being paid to go to school.
Love it. And you've got a level of humility there. And I think that level of humility and observation really helps you to see what's going on for what it is. Like you're not pretending that it's something that it's not. You're looking at it for what it is, and you're being humble about it. And you're continuing to give because you know that it's a circle of life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's go a little bit to like knowing what to say, because I think this is, we hear about this a lot, who's your target market, your ideal client, your avatar, like your elevator pitch. But people keep telling me to make this and I don't know how to do that. Like, does somebody have a recipe?
Well, I do.
That's why you're here.
Well, there's actually a free course on my website that's really good for this. But what I would say is people get caught up in creating something that's not genuine for themselves. And I like to make stuff really simple. So I say, look at the customers that you are currently working with. Look at the people who are your best customers. What are the things that were going on in their life or their business before they decided to be one of your customers? So we all know that every business exists to solve a problem, and paying somebody to solve a problem is simply an exchange of energy because you're getting value by solving someone's problem. That's the only reason, people, that's the only reason your business exists. That's the whole purpose of it, right? And money just is an exchange of energy, right? That's all it is. So if you understand what's going on for your best customers before they become your customers, you can start to see what similarities are there. So what problems are they having in their life? And then you'll start to understand that you'll probably see that most of them share quite a lot of similar characteristics. You'll probably find they're similar ages or demographics, and they might come from a similar area. And then you might start to realize, oh, these people all have a certain income level. They certainly have a certain family background, or they're at a certain stage in their life. You'll start to see a lot of similarities. So you've got to sit down and look at this. And then you've got to think about what was it that brought them from being a prospect to a client. And I used to work in retail, so this applies in bricks and mortar stores. This applies in digital courses. It applies in every aspect of like, what is the antecedent from them becoming a customer, and how did you get them across the line? Because the best customers, I think, came quite easily to most of us. If you think about our best customers, so I call them your platinum customers. So they are the best customers, and they are the ones that take the least amount of effort to continue to work with because they love you, right? And then you look at the people who came to you and it was hard work to get them across the line. What's going on for them? What are their characteristics? And it takes a lot of energy to keep them as a customer. And you go, oh no, she's ringing again. I don't want to deal with her. It's like, oh, it's an email from him. He's always complaining about this. So I call them your bronze customers. And then there's everything in between. There's silver, gold, and then you've got your platinum. So I love to break my customers up into those 4 quadrants. And then I look for the similarities, and they will be there. And that really is the avatar that you're looking for. So as you start to look at your best customers, your gold customers, how do I move them up to being platinum customers? And your bronze customers, how do I invite you to be successful elsewhere? Because you want to get rid of them because they are taking time and energy. And then put your effort into your gold, because they can become platinums. And then your silver, they're either going to become bronze or they're going to become gold moving into platinum. So constantly be looking at your customers and how you can move them into the next cohort or move them out. Because it's totally okay to get rid of customers. And, we hold on to customers that aren't fun customers, and they drag us down. They take a lot of energy. Like, it's the 80-20 rule. Like, 80% of your revenue will come for 20% of your customers. I promise you, when you do this, you'll look at it and you go, oh my goodness, he's right. And, you just need to attract more of those 20%. And then you need to move the average up over time. So you're continually moving the average up so that today's bronze customer is tomorrow's gold customer type of thing. So there you go. So that's what I do.
Well, and I think that's true because it's easy to kind of like see those different customers. And I remember when I had the accounting company, we had 3 key ones, which was the 20% of our income. And people be like, who is this? Like, I see their stuff and I go, do you know what they look like? And they're like, I have no idea. I don't even know if it's a male or a female. And I'm like, and that's why I love them, because they've been with me for 20 years and they leave us alone. They literally, like, we got to ship it in the mail and they're like, do our stuff. This is our ideal, like to us, that was our ideal client. They knew, they liked us, they trusted us, they were answered questions when they needed to, but they let us do our job. Whereas we'd have the other ones that I used to call them micro customers, because I'm like, this customer is micromanaging us, like is coming in and going, I'm not an accountant, but I think you should be doing it like this, right? And you're like you said, it's like the phone call comes in and it like, we've all had those customers where there's a video I think of years ago, and my secretary at the time, it was so funny because we had a client come in and it was one of these ones. I thought they were going to be a platinum customer and they turned out to be bronze. Literally walked into the door and I hid under my desk. And like ducked down and slid under my desk and stayed there. She comes around because oh no, she's not in. Sorry about that. Took a message. She comes around. She looks at me and she goes, are we losing him as a client? And I'm like, well, I'm under my desk, so I'm thinking he's not a good fit. But it was 2 years I kept that customer before I was like, I'm hiding under a desk. It's time to let this person go.
That's a pretty good message that it's not working for you. But here's the thing. Most people assume that the platinum customers are the ones that give them the most dollars. And that's not always the case. I mean, that client might have paid you a lot of money.
Yeah, paid on time, was never an issue, brought his stuff, like all of those other things clicked. But yeah.
Life's short. We don't want to deal with people that aren't our tribe, that we really don't want to be dealing with those people. And until you're really clear about who you want to play with and why, you're going to keep on getting the under the table customer. You just don't want to be inviting that into your space.
Yeah. So for the messaging, because I think this is somewhere that a lot of people struggle, that elevator pitch, how to do something short. trying to memorize the right wording, because I've seen reels of people putting it into like Chat GPT and being like, how do I say this better? And then trying to memorize that sentence. What
Yeah.
is your thought on, like, what is the best way to make your message clear
Yeah.
to someone else, not to you? Because I know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to be real. So you can't use words or language or even Chat GPT to be inauthentic, because the minute you're not your real self using language that you don't normally use, people smell it, right? And they go, I smell a fraud. And so they don't want to hang with disingenuous people. So don't get stressed out if you don't have the perfect words, so long as you come with the right intention and the right language for you that works for you. Because if you use big fancy words, you don't use that in your vocabulary, it's not going to work, right? So don't get caught up on it, but keep it simple and always think about what is the problem you solve for someone. So that really is the way to craft your "this is what I do" statement. So I ensure that people pay their taxes on time. I ensure people pay the least amount of tax, pay it on time with the least amount of effort. Oh, so you're an accountant? Yeah, I'm an accountant. That's the sort of thing you say. So you're solving the problem, because that's the problem. Everyone goes to an accountant because they want to make sure they don't pay too much tax. They want to pay it on time. They're not going to get fined, and they don't have to spend too much time stressing about it, right? That's the whole purpose of an accountant, right?
Yeah, it's true. Well, and I think sometimes, like you said, people try to make it sound maybe bigger or more higher caliber than just keeping it simple, and that anybody could understand what it is that you do.
Yeah. So when people ask me, I say I help people be connected in a disconnected world through courses and programs that help elevate their business and life. Really simple stuff. And then people go, oh, what does that mean? And they go, oh, yeah, well, I do courses on ... I do programs on ... And so they ask you questions because it's an open-ended question. And everyone loves the connected in a disconnected world statement, because they just go, wow, that's really cool. And, that's come from years of understanding what I do, and I'm all about connection. That's my whole purpose, is connection. Like I've been doing it since the 1980s.
You know what's funny? The other day, this is like a little off. This is a rabbit hole that we're going to jump down, but I was like, what? I was out at a shop. I was at our local gas station, and I was getting myself a drink, and there was two younger teens. I would say they were probably around 17, 18, around that age. Two girls. Anyways, they're sitting there talking, and the one girl's like, how old is your mom? Like, I just know she has like really gray hair. And so I was just curious. And she was like, oh, she was born in like the 1900s. And I was like, no, no. No. What? We're not. What? I was like, is this what we're calling it now? No. I was like, the 80s was 20 years ago. I don't know what kind of crack you guys are smoking. It's so funny. I was like, I heard that and I was like, I'm thinking this woman is probably around my age. And they're like, oh no, she was born in the 1900s. I was like, oh, sweet Lord.
Well, they're actually technically probably correct. But...
I mean, it's true, but I was just like, ouch. That reality check
right?
just hurt.
But I love this, we're in the rabbit hole, but I love being I'm 57, I'm turning 58 this year. I was born in 1965, and I wear that like a badge of honor, because God damn it, I survived. I'm a successful human being that cares about other people, that navigates this world in a considerate way. I think that's a pretty good achievement.
Well, and I always think of my grandmother, who always said, like, never lie about your age. She was like, if you learn anything from me, never lie about your age. And if you're going to lie, never go down, go up. And I was like, Nan, what do you mean? And she was like, add 10 years onto your age. Because if you walk around and say you're 10 years older than you are, you're guaranteeing yourself a compliment. So, and I mean, I was like 20 at the time, right? So she's like, if you walk around and you go, I'm 30, people will be like, damn, she looks good for 30. She's like, yeah. You go down, people are like, she has not aged well. She's like, so take the compliment and be proud of your age. And I was like, well, all right. And I just used that since then, because I was like, this is why do women lie about their age?
Oh, well, that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. But
I'm not quite ready to say I was born in the 1900s. still use
Neither
the
am I, for that
year,
matter.
but I'm okay with my age.
I don't mind saying 65. I love that I was born in 65. So I'm not a baby boomer. I'm Gen X. So I don't have that baby boomer tag. But I love it. I love being around in the disco era. I love being around in the 80s. It's fun.
So,
Lycra was my friend.
oh, I love Lycra, jelly shoes. Like, it's just like all this stuff is coming back, and they're like, look at this new stuff. And I'm like,
I know, it's hysterical. And fluoro, like I was doing that in the 80s. Come on. I had that shirt, 45 years ago.
but it's fun to watch. I just let it roll. Yeah, no, that's a new band. I know all the words to every song, but let's go with it's a new band. So, it's funny we're talking about all of this, but you have an interesting take on a 4-letter word that is the 4-letter word of the English language that a lot of people, we're talking about using age and being proud of it and using it as a badge of honor. But this 4-letter word, I find a lot of people are slapping it on like a badge of honor. And the word is busy.
Oh, I didn't realize I told you about this.
You did.
Yes. Oh, busy, busy, busy. Wow. Well, I'm writing a book about this at the moment called Busting the Busy Myth. And it is absolutely the most fascinating thing I've worked on for a while. So let me tell you how I came about this concept of like banning the word busy. So through BNI and through my trainings, I've met thousands of people. I've worked with thousands of people. So I started about just a year before COVID, I started documenting all the really obvious traits of successful people because, I've already established I'm lazy. So if somebody else has already worked it out, I'm just going to copy it because if that's how you act and be, then I'm just going to do that because I don't have the energy to create something new, right? So I'll just do you and then I'll be me doing you. So I started to see some really interesting kind of trends and sort of groups of people that were behaving in certain ways. And one of the things that was very obvious to me quite early on was the people that I thought of as very successful never used the word busy. And I would often go to people in BNI, you have to ask them to be on leadership teams. And when they say I'm too busy, it's a red flag for me because the people who are really crazy with a lot of stuff always have time for opportunity. Because when you say busy, it is a way of demonstrating to people around you that you're not somebody worth engaging with. Because it's basically, well, let's go back to when you're a child. How did it feel when you wanted to go out and play with your dad or your mum and you said, I want to go out and play, and they were inside, I'm too busy right now? You feel crestfallen, right? You don't need to know a specific example, but you can imagine what that would have felt like. As a kid, you would have felt crestfallen. As an adult, what you're saying is, I'm too important to invest time in whatever it is that interests you. So you're shutting things down. That over time, which is very Pavlovian, you're basically teaching people that coming to you with ideas is not worthwhile because every time you say something like, I have an idea for this, I'm too busy, you shut it down. So you're gradually teaching people not to come to you with opportunity and ideas. So really crazy busy people who say, I'm really crazy busy, are shutting opportunity out of their life. And so the most successful people never say that. They always say, look, I'm going to an appointment. I've got 7 minutes. I'd love to hear your idea. So they're giving you a time frame so you can't talk for 3 hours. They're listening to your idea and they're giving you the time, and they are present. They are so present when they talk to you. They look in your eye, they listen, they talk less, listen more, which is the key skill here. And at the end of that, the opportunity is either something that they will move forward with, or it's something that's not right for them right now. And they never say things like, oh no, I'm too busy for that. They'll say, look, right at the moment, that's not a priority for me. We all get that, right? That's not a swear word. We all have priorities in our life. And if that's not a priority for me right now, you're not offended, right? You are so not offended. So it's really easy to use that language and shut yourself down from opportunity. But the other thing that happens is busy comes with a level of anxiety, right? So the word itself, when you think about the word, in today's language, it comes with agitation, anxiety, a lot of stress in my life. So you're basically teaching yourself to be stressed. So the word repeated is effectively implanting in your brain that you are stressed. And in this world, there is enough stress opportunities out there for us to not have to create it for ourselves. So words have power. The words that we use to describe ourselves and our lives and what's going on really seep in and become part of who we are. And when you say busy, you're shutting yourself from opportunity, you're creating stress, and your vagus nerve, which runs through your body, is feeling agitated, and you're going, oh my God, this person's busy, which means stress. So I'm going to be busy and stressed. And your body behaves in a certain way, and your breath behaves in a certain way, and physically you behave in a certain way, and your metabolism changes. All sorts of weird stuff happens. But back in the 1700s, busy literally meant I'm out in the fields collecting my crop because I need to eat. And that's kind of very different to I'm doing all the 1,001 made up things that I think are really important that aren't really that important because I'm using it as a badge of honor. And in business, people too often use it as a badge of honor. Somehow I'm really busy to justify their job, their position, or their status in the world. Because if you're really busy, somehow you're more successful. But here's what I'd say to you. If you've got free time and you're on holiday somewhere and you've created that space in your life, I want to know how you have done that, because that is really interesting to me. Not somebody who's working 60 hours, 70 hours, 90 hours a week. That doesn't interest me. Like, I don't want to play that game. I want to play the game where you can go away for 2 weeks and have a lovely holiday with your family. That's the game I want to play.
Yeah. And I think this is so true. Like, I've been trying to do this over the last couple of years, is that it's a quest to have the most white space on my calendar out of anybody on my team. And
Yeah.
it's working really well, but it's freeing because it allows me to sneak an interview in. Like, I'm not really sneaking in. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got lots of time.
Yeah.
But the creativity started to come back, and I was losing that a lot in myself because I was busy all the time, lots of stuff to
Yeah.
do, lots of meetings, lots of people to meet. And then I thought, this is crazy. Like, every time I create free time or something drops, like I remember when my son was in school, like when he was home and then he went to preschool, which was only half a day, I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have like the whole afternoon to myself because he's going to be gone. And then I was like, what happened? Like, I have no time. Like, it's like it all went by, and I realized I was filling the space with something else. I was
Mhm.
scared that if I had free time or I was doing
Mhm.
nothing, that meant that I wasn't being productive, or I wasn't,
Mhm.
it was, so now that's what I try to do. And I'm like, okay, white space. Like, let's see how much
Mhm.
of you, because I want that. I don't want to, I'm with you. I don't want to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week and be like, look at this. I'd rather like go, look at this. I hardly did anything. Ta-da!
I love it. So a really fascinating interview I watched a little while ago was from this guy who won an opportunity to spend a day with a billionaire, an Australian billionaire, and his name is Clive Palmer, who's a interesting character, but he's, whether you like him or not, he is a very wealthy person that's created a lot of wealth through mining. And so this guy spent the day with him, and he ended up being on the private jet and going to meetings and that. And he asked Clive, what is the one piece of advice you would give me to be a successful person like you? And he said, create space to think. Because if you don't have space to think, you can't solve problems, because business is solving problems, right? And the other thing that was really fascinating is Clive didn't hold his mobile phone. I mean, we'd all love to have this. I'm probably not at this point in time, but he had staff that handed him the mobile phone when he needed to take a call or make a call. He had somebody that handed him the computer when he needed to deal with something. So he wasn't attached to his devices, because he really knew that he needed time and space to think. And, I referenced Richard Branson before, and he has Necker Island, and you think, oh, these rich billionaires going off to play in paradise, but they're there because they want to have space to think, because that's how you can progress in your life and your career. And space, even a short pause, is so powerful.
Well, and I don't think people do this often enough. Like, just get up from their desk and, like, I'll get up from my desk and just go take a breath of fresh air, or just stand outside. Or, I mean, yesterday I was watching my dog, and I had just done a post on this. My dog walked outside and there was a fawn standing in our backyard, because it's very common where we are. And it's just standing there. My dog walks out, stop. She's little. She's like a Pomeranian dachshund. So she's tiny. She stops, see it. And I swear it's like she shrugged and then turned around, turned her back to it, ignored it, and then did her business and came in the house. And I was like, didn't see the deer. And the look, like, she has such an expressive face, but she just looked at me like, I chose to ignore it. I had stuff to do and I chose to ignore it. And to me, I was like, if I wouldn't have taken one of those 5-minute breaks to just take a breath, I would have missed this lesson of going, yeah, when there's obstacles in my way, I can choose to just ignore them. I've forgotten that, that key thing. And I remembered it just simply because she was like, I don't have time to pay attention to you. I need to pee.
I love it. What a great lesson, right?
But I think that creativity, which is what entrepreneurs need, is so crucial, and what's missing when we're trying to live in a world where our schedules are just full for the sake of being full.
Yeah, there's no badge for being the busiest person in the world when you die, right? If you ever read the book, The Regrets of the Dying, they talk really clearly about people saying on their deathbed, I wish I spent more time with my friends. I wish I spent more time with my family. I wished I did something that I really loved. You don't want to be on your deathbed to be saying that. It is really fascinating to see these things that people say on their deathbed that you today have control over.
And well, it reminds me of the one meme where there's a woman lying in a hospital bed and her family's all gathered around her. And they're like, Mom is like, can we do anything for you before you go? And she was like, yeah, I didn't take a picture of my lunch and I'm really regretting that. It's just like, this is so true. Like, we spend so much of our time trying to document, like my son documents a lot of his life. And I'm just like, halfway through my meal going, oh, were we supposed to do that? It's,
I know.
comes naturally from being, born and raised in the 1900s.
I know it does, right? I love it.
So in your expanse of being, an entrepreneur and having these different avenues and stuff, what is one thing that either you've come up against multiple times, or you were like, man, I wish I would have learned this lesson a lot sooner?
Clarity. Spending some time on working out what it is that I want and why I want it. When I really got into that, it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. And I think I've talked about my model. I talk about purpose, intention, and connection. And it's a really cool model I have. If you know what your purpose in life is, that's kind of like your vision. If you know what your intention is, that's kind of like your mission. And you know how you're going to connect, that's your values. Everything starts to fall into place. And when people come to you with ideas, you can yay or nay them, because you can put it through that barometer, whether this is going to be right for me or not, or right for me right now, or right for me at another point in time. But just being really clear about what I want, it has made all the difference, and saying it out loud, because the other part of it is being honest to yourself and honest to other people. Because often I have this little thing in the back of my head, but I haven't actually said it out loud. You got to put it out in the world, right? If you don't put it out in the world, it ain't real. And if you don't act on it, if you don't take action, then it's just a thought. And we have how many million thoughts a day? I don't know, it's a lot. But I want things to not be thoughts. I want them to be actions. And taking action on clarity is very easy. The biggest disconnect we have is when we're struggling with something, is because we're not clear about the direction that we're going. So I invite everyone to pause and find out what is really important to them, because you've only got one life.
That's true. And we have to live it
Yeah.
to the best of our ability. So
yeah,
I know that there's going to be people that are listening to, to this that are connecting, because I know I am. But you have a 3-step mini course. Talk to us a little bit about that, and then how people can connect with you more if they're like, yeah, this guy I think is going to get it.
Oh, thank you so much. So I have a really easy name to remember. It's braithbamkin.com. So my website was easy to get because no one was stealing it. So if you jump on my website, you'll see that there's courses. You can jump to that course. It's free. It's about an hour plus about probably an hour of homework that you need to do, and you don't have to do it all in one hit. And we were talking before about getting clarity about who you want to work with and how you teach people how to help you. So it will give you that clarity on who. It'll teach you how to teach other people, and then it'll give you the language that you need to make that happen. And I love that course because so many people that have taken it have said to me, oh my goodness, it was the thing that really got me to understand what I really want in my business. And I've kind of changed direction. I get emails from people all the time saying, what I really wanted to do was this, but I've kind of always done that because it's made me this amount of money, but it never made my heart sing. But now I'm doing this. And then when you follow your heart, you always end up in a better place, right? So I love it. I love that. I love that little course. And I love that I've got that out there for people to have. And there's lots of other free stuff on my website so people can download some quick guides, and I do all these crazy videos. They can watch them all, and I put it out there.
Well, I think it's important that you said this because I don't think that this, like you said about the mini course, is that this is something that you do on repeat, not just like a one and done, because a lot of times you're pivoting in your business or something happens or you go through something, the world goes through something, and, or you just kind of fall out of love and you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And that's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to quit.
You are.
Right? Like I remember like leaving a business and people going like, oh, not successful. I'm like, no, it's successful. And they're like, oh, why are you leaving? And I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. I think I want to do something else now. But they're like,
people leave jobs because
that's weird. Yeah, but you don't leave something successful. And I was like, well, this stuff I do. I'll keep my husband as long as he keeps staying successful. Otherwise, he's out. Stop making me laugh and you're out.
You're a dag. Look at me. Look at me. For your audience, I probably need to explain that that's an Australian TV show that Tanya likes called Kath and Kim.
Oh my God. We were talking about that before the show. If you have not seen it, oh my God, it brings me so much joy in this show. It describes my personality very easily. But yes, the one character, she always goes, look at me, look at me, look at me. Kim, I've got 3 words for you. That is not going to absolutely work. I'm telling you why. Like, it's never been 3 words. Never. I'm like, love it. Use it all of the time. It's just, I'll put a link to it. I love it.
I call them oxymorons, which I love.
Oh my God. Such good humor out of Australia. I got to tell you. Braith, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show, to laugh with you, to learn from you. Thank you so much for sharing everything. We'll make sure that we have all of the links to where everybody can find you and your mini courses. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
Could you ask for a better guest? When we were doing this interview, it was Tuesday night for me, Wednesday morning for him. No better way to end my day than with Braith, talking about purpose, intention, and connection. And I love all of the, tangible advice, because I think, connecting with people, really using your networking purposefully and using it in a way that, how can you help someone else succeed, knowing that the evolution of the world, that it will come back to you. It just feels better. It feels better. It's easier. It's more genuine. And just for the record, I did finish the interview and I did ask him, what can I do to help you? And he was clear. He knew exactly what he wanted. He gave me 2 items to help him with, and I know exactly how to help him. So, he definitely does do what he preaches. So I can attest to that. And I myself am going to head to check out the mini course on his website, because I think this is something we need to constantly do as our clients change, as we ourselves grow and change, for whatever era it is that you're living in. I think think this is something that gives us, a way to think differently about who it is that we want to work with. Who do we feel comfortable? That person is allowed to change. Your ideal client is allowed to change as many times as you want it to. So that's something to remember. And I challenge all of you as well, like I said, to do the whitescape challenge. How much white space can you get on your calendar? And if that is daunting to you, then like Braith said, can you just take a minute? Just take a pause, get up from your desk, go stand outside, watch the trees, take a short walk, just do something to allow creativity and thinking to come in freely. So much on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm going to head right now and dig into that website and some of his videos. He has some great content that he has put out too. Always funny videos. I love his sense of humor. You guys know what my tagline is, and he fits that perfectly. So say it with me, no matter what it is that you're doing today, make sure that you take time to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?